a 60s cult performer, the world's laziest sheriff, and small town perviness and rape. Oh, and titties. We watched Blood Harvest. We watched it so you don't have to. So you know what time it is. Welcome, Moon Goons! Welcome to the Horrible Horror Podcast, the podcast where we watch the worst of the worst in horror movies. Movies so bad they're scary. I'm your host, Mr. Marshall Hampton. With me today, as always, is my buddy, my co-host, my bestest friendest, Mr. Aaron Southworth. How are you doing on this fine, sunny Sunday afternoon? Oh, there's that answer.
I need a drink. I need a drink. This movie, Jesus Christ. But yeah, man, I'm doing okay. Last night I watched 3 championship fights in the UFC. A lot of fun. Of course, I hit it by myself and got drunk. But it was a good time. Fun to be had by all. All being me.
All being you. Yeah, 3 championship fights with people I've never heard of anymore. I am so out of the loop with UFC that I have no idea who these people are anymore.
No, I don't think there's one person on there that you'd know.
Is Forrest Griffin, is he still fighting?
He's been retired for like 10 years.
Oh, well, what about Randy Couture? He's a guy. I know him, right?
He's been retired for like 15 years.
Oh, shit. How about GSP, George St. Pierre? He's got to still be fighting, right? He was awesome.
Well, he came back a couple years ago and won the 185-pound belt.
Okay.
He used to be he was 170, champ for a long time, retired, came back for one fight, beat Michael Bisping for the 185 strap, and then he goes, thanks, but no thanks, I'm out. See you, bitches. He basically just took the belt from Michael Bisping and then just goes, I'm out.
Well, but that's a great way to go out.
There was chatter of him possibly fighting Khabib Nurmagomedov.
I don't know who that is. That sounds like gibberish to me.
Only one of the best fighters in the world.
Okay. Take your word for it. Also on a side note, guys, we are in March now, so that means it is time once again for the annual Horrible Horror March Movie Madness Tournament of Awfulness. I'm excited, but it's going to be a little different this year, guys, since 2020 was so fucked up. We didn't really have enough episodes to do a full tournament like we normally did.
It's COVID rules. It's kind of like when Major League Baseball let the National League have a designated hitter. It's COVID rules. That's
a great way of putting it. So basically what's going to happen is it's going to be a much shorter tournament. It's smaller, less teams, if you will, less movies.
And less work for me.
Yeah, that's the only thing Aaron cares about. Aaron's like the sheriff of this movie. So instead of 32, we only have, I think basically we dimmed it down to there'll be 16 in this one. And of those 6, before that, there will actually be a play-in round, just like they do in the World Tournament, where there'll be a few movies on the outskirts, like your first 4 in, last 4 out, or whatever that is. There'll be a play-in round to finish out to make the full field of 16, and that will start our actual tournament. I also think this year we will probably do the play-in round and maybe the first round. Aaron and I might just do it ourselves before we open it up to voting from there on out, just to kind of make things go a little more smoothly, and because everything's so messed up. But I don't know about that 100%. But there is the tournament, and you will be able to vote on it at some point. So if you want more information, we will get the bonus episodes of those up on our Patreon page. So if you want to follow along, that will be Patreon content. You can join that if you want to check it out. And then follow along on Instagram and stuff when we start posting and opening up for the voting to help crown this year's worst of the worst champion. I'm looking forward to that. So, with that said, I don't believe, Aaron, is there anything else you want to talk about or need to say before we start this?
Man, not really. I don't have much on my plate.
All right.
Other than I got a new kettlebell, 35 pounds. Pretty awesome. Right. That's it, man. I got nothing.
Well, congratulations on your new kettlebell. I'm
Thank
sure
you.
You two will be very happy together.
It makes me sweaty.
All right, so this week's movie is Blood Harvest, a.k.a. Continuity and Who Cares? From 1987, not to be confused with the newer Blood Harvest from like 2016. And I think there's one from the 60s maybe too. I'm not sure.
So the 2016 Blood Harvest, is that like a remake?
I don't know. I haven't watched it. I don't think so. I think that has something to do with, from what I read a quick blurb on it, it's something to do with like actual blood harvesting, like sucking people's bloods like at a blood bank or something like that.
And it's not like the level in Left 4 Dead.
No.
Remember
Not the yes. It took me a while. Wait. Oh yeah, the Left 4 Dead. Yes, that's not. They're not running through cornfields and waiting for the military to save them at an old farmhouse. So,
that is a fun game.
That is a fun fucking game. All right. So this movie, Blood Harvest. This one, what we're doing, was released on January 1st of 1987. So the first movie released of the new year. I don't know if that's 100% true, but January 1st, which is weird because let me ask you this: when you watch this, it seems like January is a weird time to release this movie. Because it's not a Christmas or holiday or winter horror movie. This is a springtime, summer horror movie.
It's definitely more of a summertime because...
So it's so weird.
Yeah, she like, came home from school or something. The main character came home from school. Jill came home from school. Yeah, we'll get to that. But yeah, it's... I just wish more movies would correspond with the release date and what's happening at that time in the month. Like, of course, like a lot of, you have your summer blockbusters, you have your horror movies, which typically in the past would come out at the end of the summer. But I think they're finally now starting to get the goddamn message to start releasing it in early October or late September.
Maybe here's the one. It just dawned on me. The only thing I can think of is one. It's the 80s, so they're cranking out horror movies all the time. And if this, I don't even know if this had a theatrical release or not. I don't know. If it did, maybe the reason they released in January is because we said so it wasn't going up against some of the bitter competition this summer. They released in that weird January downtime where there's not much going out there to try to capitalize as much as they can. If it was even released in theaters, I don't know if it did. I never saw a figure on that.
That's a really good point. You don't have a lot of competition, and if you're a shit movie, maybe you'll get some,
a little extra,
get a little bit of a bump because there's nothing else out there. Like, I only want to see fucking Tiny Tim.
And the other thing is, like, because there's, like I said, we're just cranking out horror movie after horror movie. So who cares what? Not try to relate to any kind of
fucking Tiny Tim, man.
Yeah. Well, let's bring him up. We'll get to him, I guess. This movie's written by Chris Valar, William Arthur, Ben Benson, and Leszek Brzezinski.
Ben Benson?
Ben Benson.
His parents hated him.
And directed by Bill Rebane. You can find this currently on Tubi for free.
Only place,
yeah. I believe it's the only, which is the only reason why I did it now, because I've had this movie on our list for a while, but I never thought I couldn't find it anywhere until Tubi comes along and they had it. So our cast is our main girl Jill is played by Itonia Salojek. This is her one and only acting credit. She's the one and done after this, which is very surprising to me. And I guess we'll talk more about her later, but I was surprised. The sheriff is played by Frank Benson, who I'm pretty sure is the brother of writer Ben Benson.
Ben Benson.
And then the priest, who has like two lines or one line, he's the writer Leszek Brzezinski makes a cameo in this.
Okay.
The boyfriend, who's just quoted as the boyfriend, even though he has a fucking name in the movie, which is said a lot, he's just credited as boyfriend.
Scott.
Yeah.
I'd
be pissed. Like, come on, guys, I have a name.
No shit, that's really weird. Boyfriend.
He's just credited as boyfriend in the credits, in the IMDb, in the movie credits. It's just boyfriend.
I mean, it's kind of accurate because he's such a shit character. It's just like boyfriend.
But the weird thing about it is that he's the one person from this movie who went on to have an actual career. He and pretty decent. He's got 38 credits after including this one, 55 episodes of the current TV show 911, which is currently airing like Fox or NBC or something like that. He's 63 episodes of, I think it was HBO or Showtime show, 6 Feet Under, where he played Nate Fisher.
HBO.
He was in 45 episodes of the short-lived sitcom Sports Night, which was back in like the early 2000s, where he played Casey McCall. It was basically like, what if, let's make a sitcom in the ESPN office, basically.
I know exactly who this guy is.
And he's also in Spin City, Party of Five, Beverly Hills 90210, and he was in The Truman Show with Jim Carrey. So, his name is Peter Krause, by the way. I forgot to say.
Yeah, I didn't even. It's so funny because he's a pretty my wife loves 6 Feet Under, so we watched. Yeah. We watched every episode. I think we watched it twice, and it's a good show. It is a good show. The Nate Fisher character, his brother is with I can't remember the actor's name, but the guy who plays Dexter.
Yeah, it's Dexter.
God, it's gonna bother me now.
Anthony Michael Hall?
Yeah.
No.
Isn't that Anthony Michael Hall? That's
something Hall.
Yeah, it's something Hall. Anthony Michael Hall, isn't that the...
That might be... Yeah, that's
the
the guy
nerd from Breakfast Club?
Shit. Something Hall.
Whatever. Anyway, that guy. But it was a good show. But when I watched this movie and I didn't even really really him. Yeah. I kind of feel bad.
And then lastly, the big name, I guess you want to call it, for most of our listeners probably have no idea who the fuck this is. And when you listen to the intro of the episode, you're like, what the fuck is that music? But one of the main guys, Merv, is played by Tiny Tim. Now, Tiny Tim, for you guys who don't know, he was a very unique act, known for singing and playing the ukulele. He was kind of like a cult phenomenon. His popularity peaked in the late 60s, thanks to multiple appearances on the Rowan and Martin's Laugh-In show, which was a big hit, a predecessor like Saturday Night Live and other comedy skit shows.
Yeah, he sang in falsetto.
Yes, his most famous song, "Tiptoe Through the Tulips," which is what you heard in the opening. He has made famous, and he sung in falsetto, even though he's a natural baritone.
And he played a ukulele, and he just had a funky look.
His long, curly hair, very kind of man-childish look to him. He actually started out under the name as Larry Love, which is kind of interesting.
Larry Love.
He married a 17-year-old girl named Vicky Budinger, known as Miss Vicky, live on The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson. And at the time, that episode was the highest rated ever episode recorded for an evening talk show and had an incredible 85% share of the audience watching TV at that time.
Jesus.
That's fucking unheard of.
That's so, old TV and old, acts and stuff. It's so weird to think about that now.
Yeah.
You think about Tiny Tim because he was a cult character and people are like, oh, look at this weirdo who plays the ukulele with long hair, and he's kind of like, eh. Without the internet, of course, there's only going to be a few of those pop up. But now there's literally millions of people like a Tiny Tim, who have their own little niche or thing like King. But because everyone can do it, no one, they all get drowned out. It's so weird that this guy happened to have a successful career.
Yeah, and his music, the thing was his music was
covers.
It was all covers, but he was fascinated and loved old time music from the 20s and 1800s and from the bygone eras of proper civilized society, if you will, stuff like that. And he kind of redid it. He called himself a musicologist. Anyway, so him and Vicky divorced 8 years after marriage. They had a daughter together who they named Tulip. He had highly lucrative gigs in Vegas, but he was fleeced by his business associates and left him pretty much penniless. Shortly after his 15 minutes of fame, his star began to fade. He started getting dubbed a one-trick pony because of it. And he ended up touring and performing in small venues like community centers and high school theaters. He even toyed with Roy Radin's Vaudeville Review, which makes it, he was heavily evolved. Like, he's perfect.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean,
and he toured with a circus at one point.
Jesus Christ. Like, it's such a weird career.
It's so
like,
weird.
And he was on one of the highest rated shows. Like, the audience, like, that's crazy. Millions and millions of people. 45 million people, I think, tuned in to watch that. And even today, by today's standards, that's huge. But by then, it was just astronomical.
It's
so strange. This guy's weirdo career. God damn it.
He toured with a circus for 36 weeks.
I'm pretty impressed by it, honestly.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Because he is a one-trick pony.
He is a one-trick, yeah.
He doesn't juggle.
He plays the ukulele and sings a falsetto. But after the circus, he moved to Des Moines, Iowa in 1980. He had a small comeback in the 90s thanks to appearances on Howard Stern radio show, because apparently Howard Stern became a big fan of this guy because he was so awkward and unique. But his comeback was short-lived because he suffered a heart attack while playing at a ukulele festival in September of 1996.
Dude.
After getting out of the hospital, he returned to performing and touring, but that ended up suffering another heart attack on November 30th. So basically 2 months later, he had a second heart attack while performing Tiptoe Through the Tulips on stage in Minneapolis, and he died an hour later at the age of 64.
What a way to go. What a way to go. You die performing your 15 minutes of fame song at a ukulele or, you know, on I'm sure it was a shitty little stage. Half the people were gone.
Here's another weird fact for him. Even though he was married 2 more times, and he was married when he died to some girl they'd only been married for like a few months before he died. But even though he liked the idea of being loved, he was so off-put and like awkward about being with the person he loved that he actually would have like a separate house for his wife, like next door, and then they come, like, they'd visit, hang out, but he would go back and live in his own house,
dude,
or they'd have separate bedrooms, and it was really weird. And he felt like more at home, like on the road touring, than being at home, even though he did want to be married and love. But he had a separate house for his wife at one point.
I've heard about people having separate beds, and maybe even separate rooms, but separate fucking house, God damn,
he's a crazy.
Somebody likes his privacy,
So with that said, there's our background on Tiny Tim. Just a weird-ass character.
I do have something else about Tiny Tim.
All right.
Because I was looking stuff up. Jerry the King Lawler, Lawler's Court, the King's Court.
Yes.
1993.
Yes.
Had Tiny Tim on and bashed him with a ukulele.
Yes,
and then got down, was yelling at him and put the microphone in front of him. He's like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Jerry Lawler beat up Tiny Tim.
I think in some of the crowd was chanting Burger King, and then try to get him to call Tiny Tim to Dairy Queen or something like that. I don't know. It's some weird, but yes, that I did see that bit as well.
Damn it. Fuck Jerry Lawler.
Yeah, fuck him.
I don't know why I hate him so much.
I can't stand Jerry Lawler either. I won't lie.
It's part of his character. It's part of like what he does when he gets like all fucking. He gets under my skin, and I think that's his. It's obviously by design. So
he's doing it
good
right
for him.
But
fuck him
as a character. Like when he's doing that as a character, that's fine. But when he's a commentator, that's when like you don't have to be in that character all the fucking time. And that's when I started hating him most. And not when his wrestling persona, because that's different. That's in the ring, your character fine. But when you're on the commentary table with JR, that's the character I hated the most, because I couldn't stand his high pitch, like, oh, the puppies! This weird laugh he'd do. He acted like a 12-year-old child when he's broadcasting national TV with like the most like professional person, like JR, you know, and like that's when I really fucking started hating Lawler, was when he's commentating with JR, because I could not stand him.
I don't know, man. JR and Lawler was one of the best combos. One of the best. Now, I
don't know. I think Gorilla Monsoon and Bobby
Heenan. I was about to say.
I think that's the best one of all time.
It's not Gorilla Monsoon and Bobby Heenan great, but it's still really fucking good because he was such a fucking goofball and JR was the straight man. And they both had sweet one-liners, man.
They did. I will give them that. They did have some good ones. All right, enough of that. Let's move on to the movie. So the movie opens straight with some credits and then a close-up of Tiny Tim in clown makeup as he's singing like the Jack and Jill nursery rhyme, only he replaces the name Jack with the name Gary. And while he sings, we get shots of some middle-aged man getting strung up upside down in a bar, and he's hanging up by his ankles. And then it cuts to this rainy night as local EMTs load a body in the back of an ambulance while we see a younger blonde guy watching through a window, but his face is a little distorted because of the rain running down the window in front of him, so you can't really get a clear shot of who he is. We hear a cop on the radio saying that they have a double DOA at the Dickerson farm, and that's the scene. And then we cut to the
double DOA at Dickerson's.
Yes.
Act now.
We cut to the local real estate auction where one of the local farms is, and all of its equipment and livestock, all this is going to be auctioned off. And the crowd of local townsfolk,
they ain't having it.
They ain't not having it.
You get out. Get out of here, varmint.
They are pissed off, and that the farm, another farm is being auctioned off. So apparently this has happened more than once now.
It's kind of hard to understand because the sound quality is pretty bad. You hear the auctioneer going rah rah rah. He's basically laying down exposition dump, but it's hard to tell over the rabble rouse is going rah 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 rah. I couldn't understand what was happening.
Yeah, you have the crowd doing the rabble. And it doesn't help that the auctioneer who's trying to explain like what's happening with the auction.
He talked like
because
this.
He's doing it in his auction voice. So he's speaking like this. Do I have this? And every farm's going on. Blah, blah, blah. He's doing his auction voice, trying to give you information, which is just the worst way to try to explain information is through a fast-speaking auctioneer. It's like having the micro machine guy trying to read you the fine print of something. Like, wait, what? I needed that. Oh, I guess. Okay, never mind. I guess.
Was that side effect of that medication? Hot dog fingers? What?
I don't know. All right, never mind. So, so that's that. And then during the scene, it does cut back to the man shrunk in a barn that we saw gets his throat slit by a mystery man. Roll the title card. The amount of blood that comes out of this sliced neck wound is pathetic. The blood should be like gushing and flowing, like when you slit somebody's neck open, but like it's like Niagara Falls or something. It should just be a blood waterfall. But instead, we just get like a little small splurt. There's it.
That's common through the whole movie. This is blood harvest, man.
Yeah. If you put blood in the goddamn name of the movie, you better deliver some blood.
I'm saying.
So now we cut to our main girl, Jill, walking down the small town streets. While she walks, we get a voiceover of her talking to her mother on the phone about how she's coming home from college for a visit.
A one-sided conversation.
Yes, it's all, you just hear her voice. But she's coming home from college either for the summer or for a visit or something, but she's coming home. And then we learn that her dad works for the bank that is responsible for all the foreclosures on the farms that are going under and getting auctioned off. So Jill heads to the bank where her dad works and hopes to look for him. Like, hey, maybe I can get a ride home from him. I'll stay out of my dad. But the lady working the desk tells Jill that she hasn't seen Jill's dad or mom all day. Both the parents have been MIA. They haven't seen them. Mm-hmm. So Jill heads next to the Oli and Goldie restaurant where she meets up with her friend Sarah, who works there, I guess as a waitress. And then we cut away to Tiny Tim sitting in an armchair watching a news report on TV about all the forced farm foreclosures going on, and the bank's representative, Jill's dad, had to be escorted away from the auctions and all this by the local sheriff for his own protection because the local farmers are getting so pissed off they're worried about his safety.
This is a local ass broadcast, man. Let me tell you, because they're mentioning people by last name in this one. It's not like a St. Louis broadcast or any major city. And I understand small towns still have their affiliates, still have their small news affiliates. But they're like, the Andersons' farm got taken, and the Richmonds are up next. And watch out, Jim, they're coming for your daughter. Like they're getting real specific. This is a tiny ass town.
So we go back to the restaurant where Jill's talking to Sarah about her college boyfriend who has muscles in all the right places and is captain of the football team. Just, oh, doggy. He's the bee's knees. He's the cream of the crop.
The cat's meow.
Yes. And then it cuts to Jill getting a ride home from Sarah. And when Jill walks up to her family's farmhouse, she finds it's been vandalized. Like the words thief, bastard, and scum, and get out have all been have been painted all over the outside of the house.
And I gotta say, Sarah, kind of a bitch. Dropped her off at the end of the driveway, which is like the longest goddamn driveway.
Yeah.
It's so long you can't see that a white house has been vandalized with red paint.
Yeah,
that's how
true.
far away it is. She has to run because she sees it after she gets halfway there of her mile-long journey, and then she runs the rest of the way carrying her bags. I'm like, bitch, couldn't you just driven down the driveway, dropped her off? That's what a true blue friend would do.
Yeah, I
and make sure you get in safely would watch you.
That would be the extra step, yes. So, seeing this, Jill runs up to the house looking for her parents. As she runs, them titties of her have a great bounce.
Dude, they do. They do.
Jill throws open the front door and screams as she comes face to face with a dead hanging body that has an arrow through its chest. But it turns out it's just an effigy. It's just a dummy, basically.
Straw man, yeah.
Jill enters the kitchen and again gets scared when she sees a strange man dressed up like a clown standing there in the kitchen.
Yeah,
that's freaky as fuck.
And her reaction is like, "Who are you? What are you doing here?"
Yeah.
I'm like, "Bitch, dude, your house is vandalized. There's a fucking like
dead dummy
hanging up with an arrow through his chest, and you see a fucking clown hanging out in your like." I'd be like, "Bit it, bow, I'm out." You know?
That's thinking nightmares right there,
right?
Man.
And she's just like, "Hey, you, what's going on?" God damn.
I kind of want to hear what Sarah Samples would do in that situation because I know she has a horrible fear of clowns.
Yeah, I had the feeling she'd go into fight or flight mode, and honestly, with the length of that driveway, she'd probably fight. Why run back on that guy?
She's a hell of a runner, man. She's
That's
outrun that guy. She's
That's
like,
true. She's way better
no
shape.
one's catching up with her.
Way better shape than anybody else in the Horrible Horror Podcast family. I'll tell you that.
So the clown turns around, and we see that it's Tiny Tim. Jill doesn't recognize him at first, but then realizes that it's Merv, or Mervo, as he goes by.
Mervo the Magnificent.
Yes. He welcomes Jill home, offers her a bouquet of flowers, but Jill doesn't seem to even notice them and just wants answers about where her parents are and what happened to her house.
It's getting creepy quick. It's getting creepy quick. It's not bad. I gotta give Tiny Tim some credit here. He's definitely got the creepy vibes going. I don't think it's much of a stretch for him.
No, I don't think it is either. But I will say, I was surprised. I was pleasantly surprised by Tiny Tim in this as well. Mervo no answers her and just keeps going on about the flowers. And like you said, he does a really good job here playing the creepy odd character. So at this point, in comes Gary, Mervo's brother and Jill's longtime friend. She asks him about her parents and what's going on. And Gary tells her that things have been really tense around here with the bank and the farms closing. So Mervo starts sings a little song or something, hands Jill the flowers, and he leaves.
And you know how you find out that Eric is related to Mervo? Or Gary? I'm sorry, Gary is related to Mervo? It's like, oh, there goes my crazy brother again.
Yeah.
It's like, it's so unnatural.
Yeah.
Especially since these are people who've grown up together and she knows. I mean, she recognized him. She's like, oh, shit, it's you, Marv or Merv or whatever. Yeah. And he's like, there goes my crazy brother again. Waka waka. You know?
So yeah, Gary says that Mervo is getting worse and that he hardly ever takes off the makeup anymore. And then Gary just leaves to take Mervo home. Jill heads up to her old room, settles in, but soon the phone rings and she answers only to hear some guy say, "Fuck you, bitch!" And then a brick comes crashing through her window.
I don't even think she says hello. She just picks it up and, "Fuck you, bitch!" Like, whoa. God damn. I did love that part.
Yeah, that was pretty good. Like, yeah.
And again, okay, so someone's calling her and seeing her answer the phone so they can smash the brick through the window, you know, because that's kind of like, fuck you, bitch, smash.
Yeah.
There's no cell phones.
Yeah, and that's a great point.
And they gotta be out that long-ass driveway, too.
Somebody's gotta be out there with, like, fucking binoculars.
Right?
Or, like, a telescope somewhere, like, just waiting. All right, and then, like, on a walkie talking to the other guy with the bricks. All right, well, hold on, Cletus. Wait for it to pick up. Fuck you, bitch! Throw it now!
And then you just see her, like, she looks out the window. Just run
away down that long-ass driveway.
God damn, that'd be so much better.
So, she goes outside to look forever through the brick, but doesn't see anyone. However, we see Mervo hiding in the old barn, peeking out through the broken barn doors, watching her all creepy-like. Yep. And it's a pretty creepy-looking shot. I definitely will say that.
Yeah, his makeup is it's
kind of reminds me of like old Cesar Ramon Joker.
Yes, very close to that. Yeah. And but it's like you can tell he's like sweating over it, and it's slightly smeared
a little bit.
But it's good look. It's like I'm not a big fan of people doing the clown. I'm not a huge.
Yeah.
I just don't care for it personally. But I didn't mind it in this one. I thought it was actually pretty well done.
Yeah, I agree. The clown makeup wasn't. It was. I like the fact that it was creepy, but without intentionally looking like, hey, let's try to make a creepy clown. It just looked like a clown, but it was fine.
Mm-hmm.
It was good.
Yeah. Understated.
Yeah.
Understated creepiness.
Now, I don't understand this next part, but for some dumbass reason, I don't get it. Jill takes off running through the woods. As she runs through the woods, she starts seeing someone dressed up in camo running around as well.
Why the fuck is she running through the woods?
I don't know. That's why, like, the driveway's right there. You came from town to go down the driveway and down the road. Like, I don't know why. That's why I say I don't understand why she runs through the woods. So seeing this other person running through the woods, this frightens her, and she runs faster. And the more she runs, the more we get shots of this other person running through the bush and behind trees. And there's a zooming close-up of a man's face wearing like a weird like neoprene camouflage mask.
I kind of like it.
Yeah, I kind of like it too. Like, ooh, that's fucking disturbing looking too. Then we see that there's actually several men running around in the woods. All of them are armed with guns. One of them stops, takes aim, fires, shoots Jill right in the fucking forehead. She grabs her head, sees the blood on her hand, and collapses to the ground. At this
end of the movie.
End of the movie over. Done. At this point, all four of the men rush out to check on Jill, and it turns out it was just a paintball. And
chill out, it's just paint.
Yeah, and the men help Jill up, ask her why she was out in the woods in the first place, which is a great question. I don't want to know why.
Yeah, well, that is a good question. But at the same time, it's none of your fucking business. And why did you shoot me in the head? I'm obviously not part of this game.
Yeah, it's pretty obvious she's not part of it.
I mean, to like, you got to line up a headshot. You got to take time. And it's like, oh, and that's a woman who's not playing. Bam! Fuck it.
Fuck you, bitch!
It's too good a shot. I got to take it.
I mean, it's clear, and plus, it's like these are old, shitty paintball guns. This is not one of those auto like with the C2 card where you can just poof, 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 poof. It's you got like pump, shoot, and then like pump and like manual. Like it would take time to do that. So anyway, the men help her up, ask her why she's out there. She tells them that she was trying to make her way to town, and that's why I said I don't understand, because why would you just go through the woods instead of just walking down the driveway and back to the road that led you to town in the first place?
Unless it's a shortcut. Unless it's a cut.
I don't know. Anyway, we cut to Jill getting dropped off in town by the guy who shot her. And as she gets out of his truck, he says, why don't I make it up to you and take you out on a date? And Jill's like, hey, I'm sorry, I'm engaged. And she walks away. But this guy has a counter offer and shouts after her, what about some meaningless sex? And I like this guy's style.
I did like that.
I liked it. It made me laugh.
Like that too.
So Jill now heads over to the sheriff's office. Now, the sheriff, when she walks in, looks kind of like he plays for like the Chicago White Sox back in the 80s. He's wearing a baseball uniform that looks, like I said, if you've seen it, very much like the Chicago White Sox uniform from like 1986 or something like that.
Who knew Carlton Fisk doubled as a sheriff of a small town?
Who knew? So, she tells him about her parents being missing, and that her house has been vandalized. A brick was thrown through the window, and the hanging dummy, all that stuff. And the whole time she's telling him about all this, he's basically just like mocking her, and seems so put off by her that and put off by actually doing his job. He's like, God, really? Come on! Like, do I have to do this? And he's upset because he doesn't want to miss his softball game to go out to her house to have to actually do his job. So he reluctantly does get up and he goes with her.
I'm on a softball league. Of course, I missed because of COVID last year. It looks like we're going to miss this year, too. But it's pretty sweet, dude. It's always beer. It's beer. It's when you get to first base, you got to chug a beer. When you get to second, you got to chug a beer. Hey, don't tell us. We know how to play softball. It's a drinking good time.
So now we cut to Merv in like the Shire or something, and he's entering like his hobbit house his home under the hill. This is a weird thing. I don't know what this building is structure.
I thought it was like a mine shaft or the entrance to a mine or something.
It kind of looks like a long. It's like he's going into the mines of Mordor. Not that elaborate. No, not dwarves, but it looks like a hobbit house. And
it's built into a hill.
It is.
Yeah, it's a door in a hill.
Door in a hill. And he goes inside, and we see there's some woman tied up in a chair. And Mervo asks him if she's hungry and wants to eat. That's the scene. And we go right back to Jill and the sheriff.
So right off the bat, I'm like, okay, Mervo's a fucking creep.
Yeah, Mervo's creep. He keeps women locked up in his hobbit home and his hobbit hole. And okay. So Jill and the sheriff, they get back to her house. But when they do, they find all signs of vandalism and damage is now gone. Like nothing ever happened.
How?
Yeah, we're going to talk about that in a second. Because the sheriff...
How long was she gone?
Not that... It could have been that long.
No.
The sheriff is not happy seeing that there's nothing wrong and accuses Jill of playing tricks, of course. And she's like, no, I swear what I saw, blah, blah, blah. The sheriff's like, hey, if this happens again, don't call me. I'll call you. And then he leaves to catch the rest of his softball game. So, again, just doesn't give two shits about doing his job.
No, he doesn't.
Now we go to the local church where Merv is crying and singing a prayer or a hymn or something on his knees in front of the altar. And then right back to Jill unpacking in her room. She goes over to her dresser to put some clothes away. And when she opens the drawer, she screams in fear as the cat leaps out at her. What the fuck? Like, how in the blue hell did a cat get trapped in a dresser drawer?
And it's such a ridiculous horror movie trope.
Yes.
I mean, like we've seen it 100 times.
So many, but I kind of get maybe a closet. He's in the closet, somebody closes the door. Fine, that can happen. But
the only thing I can think about is the people who came up and like strung up the dummy and fucked with him and like, fuck this cat, I'm gonna put it in a drawer. That's the only thing I can think of. Other than that, why the hell would a cat be in a drawer?
And how long was that poor cat trapped in there?
Right?
Because her parents have been missing for we don't know how long yet, and she was away at school. Like this poor cat, I don't get it. That could have been in there for days for all we know. And that trope, like, when we see, like, a lot of times they open the closet door and it jumps down off the top shelf.
Yeah, always.
That one obsesses me, too, because how did he get up on the top shelf?
Dude, my favorite is Friday 13th Part 5 when that guy's, like, walking to the diner and then they just throw a cat.
Yeah.
Just throw a cat. That was the chick. The chick's in the diner about to go meet her cokehead boyfriend in the parking lot. And they just throw a cat at her out of nowhere. What the fuck is this kid just... cat.
God, poor cats in these movies. So at this point, Gary comes back and attempts or admits that he was the one who cleaned up the house for her, which I call bullshit on. This is what we're going to talk about here. Because there's no way that he would be able to fix all that damage in the manner of maybe an hour at most that they were gone.
Slapped on a fresh coat of paint.
Painted the entire house.
He took down the dummy. He repaired the window.
Yes, that's my big thing. He cleaned up the broken glass, took down the hanging dummy, replaced a broken window all in the time it took for Jill to get to town, grab the sheriff, and drive back. Bullshit. Does Gary just drive around with like a spare window in his trunk that just so happens to be the perfect size for the one that got broken in their window?
It's probably a hand-built house with all kinds of fucked up dimensions.
Yeah, this is not like a modular home where
replaceable parts. Yeah. No, this is like a fucking, house that was probably built in the early 1900s in a farm. A farmhouse.
This is one of those things. You have to have somebody come out, measure it. Like, all right, we got the measurements. All right, we'll go to the warehouse. Here we go. We have to make the window and bring it back out here.
Make sure it fits. Yeah. Make some adjustments.
Nope. He does this in like a matter of like an hour, maybe.
That is one handy motherfucker.
Yeah. This is like the most far-fetched thing I think we've ever seen in any of the movies we've ever done. Is this bit of bullshit right here.
Oh, House of a Thousand Cats? Totally buyable.
Totally buyable. Compared to this? Yeah. Gary tells her that he doesn't think anyone is actually trying to hurt her with all this. It's just that the town folks are just mad at her parents. And that her parents probably just left town for a little bit to let things calm down. So then it's going to go get a breather. Gary asks her to come for a walk with him. So it's like, okay, we'll go for a walk. And off they go. They end up finding their old childhood tree house. They decide to climb up it. They have a little nostalgia, reminiscing here. We learned that Gary and Jill used to be a couple or dated for a while before she left for college. They also talk about how Gary's parents were killed. And this leads to a flashback of the opening of the movie where the body we saw being loaded into the back of the ambulance. And we learned that man who was looking out through the window in the rain was Gary. And this time you see his face a little more clearly than you did in the opening. He says that the sheriff told him that his parents were hanging in the barn for days before they were found. And that because of this, Gary tore down the old family barn. And the killer was never found, nor do they know who it was or have any leads. It's just... It is what it is.
So at this moment, we find out that Jill and Gary at one time were an item. Yes. And how long has she been at school?
We don't know. Like, it just could be a freshman year. This could be senior year. We don't know. That's never established.
But it hasn't been that long. Obviously. I mean, within, let's say, a maximum 4 years. Still pretty, recent-ish. So...
Yeah, I have no idea how long she's been at school. It's never established. Gary says that Mervo took this really hard and that he has to watch Merv all the time now. And then it just cuts to them running through a field of tall grass and wildflowers.
Holding hands.
Just
playing, chase me, funny fun.
Flowers,
yeah,
or, tiptoeing through the tulips, if you will. And then they stop to have another conversation. During this one, Jill tells them about how she's not staying here very long. And, I'm not staying here. I'm just here for a little while and then I'm moving on again. And about her new boyfriend, Scott. When she brings up Scott, Gary's like, okay, that's it. He quickly changes the subject. He's like, hey, I got to leave. I go take care of some chores or some crap like that.
Oh, I ain't getting in the guts right now?
Yeah. I'm out. And so he's like, I'll see you later. And he leaves.
Can't blame him.
Gary walks off. But Jill's like, hey, wait up, and she runs after him. And they walk off arm in arm while we hear Mervo singing the Gary and Jill Went Up the Hill song. And I will say it properly creepy in this point. Like the way he's singing the fast, it's pretty creepy.
I mean, let's just face it, Tiny Tim's a creepy motherfucker on his own.
Yeah.
He's
a disturbing guy. So we cut to Mervo then in his bedroom talking to himself about how he must go on acting, and like just being weird and talking to himself. So, I don't know. And we go right back to Jill's house where she's on the phone with Sarah. And I think they're talking about how her parents are still missing. After the phone call, she goes and takes a shower. We get a really nice ass shot of her. Then it cuts like this glove, like down to the basement where we see a gloved hand of a mystery person turning like off the cold water, messing with the water switch down there. I guess the cold water, because the shower immediately starts scalding, like it's just steam and
super
hot, forces Jill to jump out of the shower, which gives us a great full frontal nudity shot, including that wonderful 80s bush. But goddamn, Jill's got a pretty banging body and great tits. I will give her that.
She does, yes.
Great. Night has fallen at this point, and we see Mervo creeping around the house, looking through the windows. And then he just walks in through the back door. Just walks right in.
Sure. Hey, it's small town friendly.
I guess. I get that, but man, you would think. You would just think. I don't know. She comes home. Her parents are missing. Her house is completely vandalized. There's a hanging effigy, like a dead straw man hanging there. And you still, like, a brick is through your window. You get a call that says, fuck you, bitch! And then... But you still just leave your doors unlocked?
Right?
Come on. Come on, man. Like, Jesus. Anyway, after the small initial jump scare of, like, her, like, oh, my God. Oh, Merv. She's happy he's here and offers some tea. Mervo tells her to relax, that he'll make tea for both of them. And then Mervo here gets a little creepy, saying something about how he's a tree with birds flying through him. And then he starts this, like, creepy laugh. And then he starts he reaches out, put a hand on her like shoulder, and he starts like leaning in like he's gonna kiss her. It's really awkward, really creepy. Jill stops him, and then Merle's like, "What about me? I can't be happy too." And then he just walks out of the house.
I make other people happy all the time. What about me? Yeah. I want to make myself happy.
What about Raven?
But it's like, dude, yeah, make yourself happy. Go jerk off, man.
Yeah.
You can't make yourself happy at the despair of someone else.
Yeah. So I don't know what's going on at that point with him. We cut back to the Hobbit hole where we see that the woman that was tied up in the chair is now gone and is just missing. Jill is lying in bed reading when she hears some strange sounds come from outside. She gets up, looks out her bedroom window, which I will say from the camera, it kind of makes it look like it's on the second floor.
Yeah.
Outside, she sees some strangers sitting on a stranger sitting on an old swing that's slowly swinging back and forth
creaking
in the darkness. And the sound here is the sound of the squeaky, rusty chains of the swing moving around. Jill calls the sheriff, telling him to come over because there's a stranger on her swing. Again, the sheriff's like, fuck, now it's my poker night. I have to miss my poker game too.
Wah, wah.
So after she gets off the phone, the sheriff, her phone rings. Like as soon as she hangs up, phone rings again.
Fuck you, bitch. I wish.
That would be awesome. But this time it's her boyfriend, Scott. She tells him about all the weirdness going on. During the conversation, the squeaking does stop, which she does comment on. It's like, oh God, it stopped. What's happening? What's changing? And then the front door begins to rattle and knock. But it's the sheriff who's like, hey, it's the sheriff. Come here. Open your door. Jill hangs up, goes downstairs. And keep in mind, like, the conversation she's having with Scott was like 20 seconds and maybe 30 seconds long. How the fuck does the sheriff get out there that fast? She goes, sheriff, come here. There's a stranger here. Click, hang up. Bring. Hello? Hi, Scott. Oh, there's some weirdo going on. Oh, I miss you so much. I love you. Knock. It's the sheriff. Open the door. What? How? Is there like a wormhole in the sound that like travels through space and time to allow him to teleport there? What? How does he get there so fast?
It's small town secrets. But dude, I also love the conversation Jill's having with Scott. Oh, your voice, Scott, makes me feel so much safer. Just talk to me some more. Well, what's going on, Jill? Oh, yeah. It's like, what's going on? I feel like we're getting like an 800 number on USA up all night.
Jesus. So, anyway, yeah, the sheriff has Mervo with him and saying, here's your prowler, Jill, is Mervo. And Mervo just says, hey, I didn't want anyone to hurt you. I just watching out. So Jill has the sheriff take Mervo home. I think fine, whatever, just take him home. And she goes back to bed. Later that night, time's passed, Jill has fallen asleep. The power to the house gets cut off, and we see a mystery person creep in through her bedroom window, which, like I said, should be impossible unless he's fucking Spider-Man, because we clearly see that the bedroom is on the second floor.
Spider-Man's a fucking perv.
Apparently, man. Apparently, he got traumatized by Skip and just fucked him up royally now. So...
Shout out to Here Comes the Spooky.
I was going to leave that one play and let them pick up on their own, but yeah. So, the man goes up to sleeping Jill, chloroforms her, knocking her out instantly. We talked about this before, and we've established the fact it's science. Like, you do not chloroform someone and it's instant knockout. It takes a while for them to pass out from chloroform, but this is just like the instant death strangulation. Just folded cloth right over the mouth, poop, instant knockout.
Knockout
just
juice.
Instantly.
Yeah, always. If that actually existed, how many rapes would
Oh
occur?
my God.
Oh my Jesus
That
Christ.
shit would have to be like banned and
Right.
like just gotten rid of. Like you couldn't buy that anywhere. That would be black market shit. Yeah, it'd be
Boom! Knocked out.
knockout.
Because guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to take off your clothes and take Polaroids of
That's
you.
what he does. He takes her out. He undoes her robe, exposes them great titties again, and starts taking Polaroids of Jill.
Dude, it was so fast how he put the chloroform on her face and removed it.
Yeah.
I looked away for a minute. And I'm like, how the fuck is this bitch not waking up? She is a
Exactly.
deep sleeper. But
Yeah.
then I rewound it because I didn't believe it. I'm like, what happened? Oh, chloroform.
Okay.
Because it was just like on her face, like boom, boom.
Yeah,
Now
it's
you're not
so
dead.
fast.
Now I can have my way with you.
So now we cut to the mystery man's lair, if you will, where he's taping the pictures to the wall, which aren't Polaroids anymore, by the way. Now they're just regular pictures.
And if they were Polaroids, he'd be the most precise motherfucker
Yes.
in the world.
And he would have had to take like an X-Acto knife, and he cut the picture out of like the white frame, or that white part of the Polaroid. Yeah. So, and then there's a big continuity error here as well, because when we see him taping the pictures of Joe to the wall, when he was taking the picture, Jill was pretty much naked, only wearing a thong, titties all looking great. But the pictures on the wall they hang up, she's now wearing a bra in the picture.
I didn't notice.
Yeah. So that makes zero sense. The next day, Jill startled awake by Scott kissing her in her sleep. And he's like all about getting up in that booty. That's all he's like, he's trying hard to get in that booty. And she's just like not having it. But she's playfully not having it, I'll say that. They end up making out and they strip down in the living room.
Chase me.
Chase me.
Yeah.
Yeah, grab ass. So they're in the living room. They're getting naked. They're laying on the floor making out. Those goddamn titties. They've got the titties themselves need to have a credit in the opening sequence in the credits of this movie because they are their own character and get way more screen time than a lot of other characters in this movie do. That's how much these titties are in this movie.
About the same amount of dialogue too.
Yeah. Outside, we see Gary show up, checking out Scott's car, and he goes up.
It's a sweet ride,
dude. He goes up to the house, looks through the living room window, and spies on Jill and Scott while they're getting it on, and he is not happy about this. And he looks like he's got to cry, actually. He's all upset. But before he can...
It's the only way he can come is to cry.
But before Jill and Scott can fully go to Pound Town, the phone rings, breaking up the moment, and Gary turns away and leaves before he can be spotted. Jill answers the phone. It's her friend Sarah, and she's while she's on the phone, Scott goes to get a beer from the fridge, but finds none. I also at this point kind of want to just make nothing to do, but I just want to comment on the cool teepee like fireplace in the corner of this living room. It's really cool, very stylish. I liked it.
Oh yeah,
really
that's like 70s
it's very
style.
70s style.
Yeah,
I dig that fireplace. Like this
my-
old like wood burning fireplace.
My neighbor, when I was a kid, they had like. I felt like these guys were rich, even though they were in a one-story house right across the street from us. But they just, I guess, kept everything clean. We were dirty. But they had a room just for the two boys where they played video games. It was like a playroom. Mm-hmm. But they had a, like, avocado green teepee style wood-burning fireplace. It was awesome. And I remember always playing with it because it was rounded.
Yeah.
And it had this like chainmail curtain that you would pull back and forth.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Oh man, it was so cool. I always loved
this
that
fireplace
thing.
is like I'd love to have. That'd be so cool. It's a really neat little thing. But anyway, side note, it's just cool fireplace. So anyway, Scott says, "Hey, I'm gonna go jog into town, get me some beer." While he's there, he's like, "I'll talk to the sheriff. All this crap.
Straighten out that sheriff.
I'll talk to that sheriff for you." And I will say the acting in this scene is pretty solid. Jill does a really fine job for a girl who is a one and done actress. And when it came to her acting career, just one done, but she does a solid job in this. She's not terrible.
She does have Nate Fisher to play off.
Yes.
Or John Krause, I guess. But
No, he was Nate Fisher.
In 6 Feet Under.
Yes, his name's Peter Krause.
Peter. Whatever.
But yeah, and Peter does a fine job too, obviously. Where was I? So Scott leaves. Jill turns on some music on the radio. As Scott's backing out of the driveway, he spots a man with a stocking over his head, looking like he's about to rob a bank or something, running through the field nearby.
And I would be like, okay.
Yeah.
But not Scott.
Nope. He gets out of the car and chases after the man.
Hey, you, come back here. Who are you?
Which leads him to the old barn. Scott heads into the barn and instantly gets hit in the face by a fucking baseball bat, knocking him out cold.
Love that part.
Just wham! Baseball bat to the face. The killer drags Scott's body into the barn while Jill is in the living room practicing ballet, I guess? Like naked ballet almost?
And this is a little too...
not naked, but...
This one's pretty gratuitous, too. Like, her ballet. She's doing, like, I don't know, spreading her legs real wide. And the camera is, like, up in her fucking panties.
I don't remember that shot.
It was gratuitous.
Well, she's like, at this point, she's wearing Scott's button-up white shirt.
But she's doing these, I don't know, plies or whatever.
Arabesque.
Yeah.
She's doing an arabesque.
Thank you.
And some stretches.
I'm not up to date on my ballet. But it's in the camera angle is ridiculous. It's just like, panty shot! It's just like in your face.
Yeah, just
come on, guys, have a little more
small
class.
Girl, like, oh, ballet? Not what I would have guessed for Jill, but
she had to quit. She had to quit ballet actually because her titties got too big.
Yeah, maybe.
It's like the best reason to quit ballet.
Next, we see Gary running up to the house and knocking on the door. Jill turns off the music, answers the door. Gary tells her that he saw a car in the driveway that he didn't recognize, so he thought he should come over and check on her. She tells, oh, that's just Scott who showed up unexpectedly this morning. They sit down for some coffee. Jill tells him the story of how she and Scott met and started dating. It's not really important. She mentions something about how if maybe her dad never caught them, maybe it could be her and Gary instead of her and Scott. So earlier when they were in the treehouse, they did mention something about, hey, you remember that time when your parents caught us, I guess, having sex or fooling around or about to do something? And I guess that was that ended the relationship or something. Like, I guess Daddy forbid it, and then she went off to college.
Why is this bitch honeydicking him? Why is
she is kind of honeydicking.
Why is she like fish hooking him here?
She's keeping him in the pocket. I will say that.
Yeah,
she's the backup guy.
Yeah,
and Gary's like, you kind of feel bad. Like, it's not 100% Gary's fault here because she's a little bit leading him on.
Yeah, like she's cracking the window to get out of the friend zone, but she's like, nah.
Yeah.
She
opens the window, but she puts the screen down.
Yeah.
The window's open, but the screen's in the way.
You can smell what's in the kitchen, but you can't get in.
Yeah. So, where was I? So she hears the sound come from outside, and she thinks it's Scott or Sarah coming over. And she looks out the kitchen window right as Merv pops his head up into view, scaring her in his full clown makeup. Which that would be kind of terrifying. You look out a window and all of a sudden, there's a clown face right there. Jill tells Gary to tell Mervo to stop spying on her, and next time she will have the sheriff lock him up. Gary rushes outside, grabs Mervo, and like yanks him into the house, like, get in here, you dummy or whatever, and makes him apologize to Jill. Mervo goes on some kind of crazy rant at this point. I don't even remember what he was talking, but it's just a rant, and says that he doesn't hate Jill's parents. He doesn't hate Jill for what her parents did to his parents and for slaughtering all of his friends. Like, what? And then Gary says that Mervo's talking about the farm animals that were killed after the family lost their farm, which seems odd to me that they wouldn't just auction them off to another farmer, because that's like the bread and butter, the livelihood of farmers. If you're alive,
that's money.
That's money. Why would you just slaughter the animals instead of just auction them off to another farmer who wants them?
Unless they slaughtered them for meat consumption, which you would do anyway.
Yeah,
which would be your bit. So it's either you slaughter them for, you butcher them for meat, or
you're selling them to a butcher for profit.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. It's not communicated very well.
No, it's not. Yeah,
and why would it's like the same thing? Like, would he be so upset about if that was the case? Animals being butchered, because that's the way they make their money.
Yeah. So
can we talk really quick?
Okay, sure.
About Gary and Mervo.
Oh, sure.
They are brothers.
Yes. I look nothing alike.
Okay. Mervo, Tiny Tim, he looks like Nazi propaganda of like the Jew. Yeah. Like it's real. I mean,
and Gary looks like a Nazi.
Yes.
Yes.
Blonde in shape, young, fit, and then you've got this overweight, like dumpy.
They're like the Nazi equivalent of the Odd Couple.
Big teeth,
Felix and,
big
nose,
the curly hair. It's so different, and the age difference is striking as well. Not only physically,
there's a sitcom there somewhere. The Jew and Nazi, man, the new Odd Couple are perfect.
You said it, not me.
I know.
But
hey, it's a long time ago. Let's get over it.
It's so stark.
Yeah,
it's such a stark difference. It makes you wonder what their parents were doing.
Yeah.
Where were they?
God, it was we had a movie not that long ago. I remember make same grade. Like somebody had like a brother or a sister that was like 10 and they were like 30 or something like that. Like, what? How is that even possibly a brother of yours? Like, I don't get it.
And yeah, because I mean, Gary's what? He's probably in his early 20s, or he's supposed to be in his early 20s.
Oh, it was Cyanide Deli Night, because the girl's boyfriend's younger, who was the newspaper photographer, who was like clearly in his 30s or 40s, and the younger brother who was like 10. That's what it was.
But he's got to be in his early 20s. That's kind of like the idea they're
giving
him.
I mean,
he's in his early 20s, and fucking Tiny Tim's like 58.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah. That's a good point. I brought that up because I forgot to write about that down. So I said earlier, keep in mind this whole conversation with all Jill's still wearing just a thong and Scott's white button-up shirt, and those buttons are barely buttoned. Like, again, talking about leave somebody on, like, for like, hey, basically here's my tits, almost, like, and here's my ass hanging out. Like, here's that bottom ass hanging out from underneath the shirt. Like, it's kind of hot. And
Goddamn cock tease.
And she's just bopping around in front of these people like this all the time. So anyway, now Jill and Sarah now have some girl talk. We cut to them up in Jill's bedroom. They're laying on the bed. Sarah sees what time it is. Like, oh my God, I gotta go for my shift at the restaurant. She leaves. Jill turns on more music. Sarah leaves, and it's now night again.
Yeah.
So
it was
daytime when Merv and Gary and Scott left, and all. It was daytime.
And that's when Sarah walks in.
Sarah walks in as Merv and Gary are leaving. Thank you. It's daytime. So they've been hanging out for
hours?
8 hours, maybe 10 hours at this point, because we don't know because Jill was woken up in the morning by Scott. She woke up.
Yes, so Scott, it's got to be early.
That was probably like 8 in the morning, maybe. This whole thing's gone like, they've happened like in 10 minutes. So it's like 8, let's say 9 o'clock in the morning, and now it's nighttime, so it's summer, daylight saving, so it's probably 9 o'clock at night at least. So it's been like 10 hours, 12 hours. But, so she leaves, which also means that it's been like 10 to 12 hours since Scott left for beer and hasn't come back yet, and nobody's commented on that?
Nah.
She was like,
Scott being Scott.
Yeah.
Chatting it up with him. I'm sure he's giving the old sheriff what's good
geez,
one.
Come on. So Sarah goes to gets to her car, but finds that it's locked up. And then coming out of the woods behind her is the stocking-covered killer, that's just fucking... He's wearing like a old green military kind of coat and just black leather gloves like OJ and like just nylons over his head.
He kind of looks like the killer from Final Exam.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The old, yeah. Very. It is the killer. It's right. That's a great point. So anyway, he comes out from like behind a tree or the woods or something. Sarah screams, takes off running. The killer gives chase. Now, instead of running right back into the fucking house, which is like 20 feet away, right, the front door is right there, this fucktard runs all the way to the barn, fucking trips on her way there, and at this point, I just threw my hands up in the air.
What the fuck are you
I'm just done. Like, why? Why would you do that? That makes zero sense to me.
Those doors are unlocked. She doesn't lock shit.
She didn't lock it when she came out. Like, why would you not run back into the safety of the house? It's right there, but no. Let's run to the creepy rundown barn that's probably at least 100 to 200 feet away and
make sure you cannot hear me scream.
Yeah. Like, are you fucking kidding me? Sarah enters the barn, leans up against the post, like catch her breath after her fucking sprint, which was really not that far. But anyway, the stocking killer aims a fucking bow and arrow through the broken door, lets loose his arrow, which shoots into Sarah's hand, pinning it to the post. The killer walks up to her, rips the arrow out of her hand, then grabs her by the wrist, rips her shirt open.
Give me them titties.
Give me those titties. Drags her through the hay, then strings her up by her ankles and hangs her upside down. Next, he rips off the rest of her shirt.
Give me that booty.
And cuts her pants off of her. Like, god damn, this guy he's horned up.
Yeah.
And I wonder why, which we'll come to. So anyway, Sarah's got a really nice looking body too. She keeps it tight.
Nice choice of undergarments as well.
Matching black lace.
Yes.
Bra pants.
Nice.
Yes.
Victoria's Secret edition.
Yeah,
I see.
probably. Yeah, Farmer's edition. Yeah. I can't think of a Victoria Vicky's Secret. I don't know what's a farmer version of Victoria's Secret. I don't know.
I got nothing.
Bertha's Secret. I don't know. Butter. So the killer then slits Sarah's throat, and again, all we get is a small splout of blood. And if you look carefully in the scene, you can see the blood pack hanging on Sarah's back.
Oh, nice.
When she's spinning around, it kind of spins to the camera, and you can see the blood pack or this like thing mounted on her back. Again, like this blood, you're slitting somebody's throat like a large knife, upside down, slitting that jugular. Blood should be pouring out. And again, basically, it's the equivalent like one of those like roadside diner. When you just go to a diner, you have like a little ketchup squeeze bottle, like that plain red generic. You take that and just squirt that. That's basically the amount of blood that comes out. It's so pathetic and just underwhelming.
Blood harvest.
Yeah, blood harvest.
Let me
people.
harvest this blood. There's not enough here to harvest. We can't go to market. God damn it. The crop is ruined.
Yes. So Jill hears a knocking on the door. She goes down, opens up to find Gary, who asked her if she's seen Mervo because he took off and he disappeared, even though he was just with him and took him home. Gary's worried about Mervo because he's never seen Mervo so upset and is worried that he may do something. So now we cut to Mervo sitting at his kitchen table looking through the old family Bible and singing to himself. So I guess Gary didn't look very hard for Mervo because he's sitting in the kitchen at the table. We cut back to Jill and Gary, and now we get some really, really bad continuity issues. Like, it's atrocious. So, keep in mind, when Gary showed up and when Sarah left the house, it's nighttime. But now, even though it's only moments later after Gary showed up, it's daytime again. They're in the room, daylight coming in through the window.
Jesus Christ.
Jill tries calling Sarah, but finds out she never showed up for work, and she's not at her house either. Gary decides to go back looking for Merv, saying, I guess I should go back home and look for him there. I'm like, wait, what? You looked for your brother, but you didn't look at your own house? Like of all the places to look for somebody, the house should be like number one. Like, hey, I go find Aaron. Where am I going? Well, let's check his house
Check
first.
his house,
That's what you do. How do you not look for your own brother at your own house? Like, this is just the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Gary offers Jill's like, hey, why don't you come stay with me? You don't have to be around all this stuff. We'll get you somewhere safe and you'll have company. But she's like, no, Gary, I got to stay here in case my parents show up or Scott comes back, but thank you. Gary leaves. Jill ends up curling up on the couch crying. Time passes and she falls asleep on said couch. Keep in mind, when Gary leaves, I should say, when we see him leave, it's night again. So we've gone from night to day.
Back to night.
Back to night in a matter of like 30 seconds. It's the worst continuity ever.
Now, is this the part that comes up where there's like no dialogue for 10 minutes? It's like 10 minutes of this movie and there's nothing is said.
Yeah, I think that's this part right here.
Oh, God. This was so painful.
Jill ends up curling up on the couch crying. Time passes. She falls asleep on the couch. The camera pans over to show the stalking killer standing there watching her. The killer slowly walks up to Jill and again chloroforms her, knocking her out instantly.
Boof, knockout.
Bam! The killer scoops her up, carries her out of the house, and takes her into the old barn. He lays her down right in front of Scott, who is hanging upside down, and then starts rubbing his hands all over Jill's body and like upper thighs, getting all feely and creepy.
God damn, that's aggressive, man.
Yeah,
it's like, yeah, you
aggressive.
See that girl? Yeah, that's your girl. I got her now.
He grabs Scott to make him watch, like, because Scott's basically, he's kind of like spinning around. He's like, no, you're going to watch this, motherfucker. But before he can do anything else, he gets interrupted by the sounds of police sirens approaching for no fucking reason. He scoops Jill back up, quickly carries her back into the house, lays her back down on the couch. The sheriff pulls up, gets out of his car, goes to the front door, finds it locked. Holy shit, it's locked!
Holy shit.
Oh, God. So, just like everyone else in this movie, he starts peering through the windows.
You know who fucking locked it? It was probably the killer.
Probably.
Like, this bitch ain't locking her doors.
He looks inside, sees Jill sleeping on the couch, but what he doesn't see is the killer hiding just off to the side of the window out of sight, eye view. The sheriff gets back in the car and drives away.
Did we see titties there?
What? No titties
No,
there.
we got to funny. The sheriff's like, yeah.
What? This makes me because why was
Why
he
is the
there?
sheriff coming?
Why is he there? Nobody called him that time. And why
again, I'm
is
reaching.
he coming with his sirens blaring?
I'm reaching here. Maybe someone said we haven't seen Sarah. The last place we heard she was at, fucking Jill's house. So, and everyone likes her because she works at Ollie and Honeycomb's restaurant. Ollie and Goldie's restaurant. So, you got to have, she's got to be slinging those fucking, burgers, man.
Hash brown tater tots.
Right. So this is serious business, man. You got to hit those fucking sirens and get over to Jill's house.
That's the thing. Okay, maybe sheriff shows up like, hey, I'm sorry to wait. I just want to check on you. But why the sirens?
Because you got to get those fucking grits slung, bro. It's important. Morning shift is coming soon.
I guess. At this, Jill's spine starts to come to. Meanwhile, out in the barn, the killer slits Scott's throat, killing him, and he starts catching his blood in a bucket. So actually harvesting blood. Imagine that. There's also a quick shot of Merv still sitting at the kitchen table. Only now he's looking at a Polaroid picture of a butchered pig named Beulah. Jill wakes up, goes to the fridge. When she opens it up, the bucket full of Scott's blood falls out at her, spilling blood over her feet, legs, and on the floor. How long was she knocked out? Because the killer had to have drained Scott's body of the blood, enough of it to fill this bucket, take it into the kitchen without waking up Jill, and then set the booby trap up. Because you can see it hanging from like a fish wire after a while. So he ties it up, sets this up somehow, and gets out before Jill wakes up.
So he carries her.
He carries her?
Yeah. Carry, as in the movie, carry.
Oh,
yeah, the blood.
I thought you meant he carried her back into the house. We saw that.
The blood dump. He quote unquote carries her.
Gotcha now.
Yeah.
So she screams, falls to the floor. She's freaking out.
And she's like in shock.
Yeah.
Apparently, she's in shock now. Now, apparently, people have been fucking with her. It shouldn't come as a major shock. You've had your house vandalized. You had a brick thrown through your window. You had an effigy, with an arrow through it, and now you got some blood dumped on you. It shouldn't be
blood that looks like watered down paint.
Right,
it's the reddest blood.
And
it's so red.
This shouldn't come as a major. Don't get me wrong, it's disturbing. I'd be kind of fucked up from it. But the way she reacts, she basically becomes catatonic.
Yes. Anyway, from out of nowhere, in runs Gary through the unlocked doors, or whatever. But even though the one door was just locked, he embraces her, tries to calm her down. He's like, "It's okay, I'm here. It's okay." And now shit is about to get real proper pervy creepy.
Real weird.
We're cranking up to 11 here on the creep scale. Gary scoops up Jill, who seems to, like I said, is in shock at this, carries her up to the bathroom where the two of them get into the tub or the shower.
With their clothes on. Running the shower. He gets her in the shower and then strips her naked and starts soaping up them titties.
He starts kind of I'm using air quotes, washing her, but spends more time groping her and filling up them titties than doing anything else. And Jill just sits there trembling and shaking in shock, and he's like molesting the fuck out of her.
He's like, "It's okay. Don't worry. I got you.
It's okay.
You're
now.
safe now. Don't worry."
Honk, honk.
Honking titties.
That's what he's doing.
I haven't done that in so long. Oh, I know what I'm doing when I get home. Look out, Melissa.
So, after the molestation shower, he carries her back downstairs, lays her back on the couch, fully naked.
God, this is so weird.
More full frontal is with Bush here. And I don't know why or how, but Jill's still, asleep now. How did she fall asleep to that?
She's asleep now. She's asleep.
Totally asleep. She's been, under anesthetic. Like, that. She's out when he lays her down. And now the rapey-ness continues because now Gary starts kissing on her, moving his way down to her tits, and starts kissing and sucking on her nipples. Just full on,
going at him.
Yeah, this is just, it's disturbing.
He's sucking them titties like he's starving.
Yeah. Like he's a baby cow sucking the mom's udder. There you go.
I'm sorry, listeners. I have my eyes closed and I just hear this Marshall udder sucking noise. And unless you're into ASMR weird shit, I'm sorry.
Gary finally grabs a blanket and covers Jill up, and then goes and sits in the.
He covers her up. He's like, "Okay,
I got enough rapey.
I got enough titty milk, I guess.
I get my weight quota for
boy,
the day.
I'm full. I couldn't suck another tit if I wanted to.
I'm
gonna cover her up.
Yeah,
but no.
He goes and sits in a rocking chair. Which is there anything creepier than a rocking chair at this point? Of course, there's a rocking chair. He just sits there in the dim light, rocking, staring at Jill with this weird look on his face. But that's short-lived because the rapiness is strong with this one.
Gary unbuttons and takes off his shirt now, strips down butt-ass naked, goes over to Jill, pulls the blanket off her, and lays down on top of her and starts kissing on her again.
Like, he's ready to go to Fucktown.
I mean, literally, he's butt-ass naked laying on her, who's also butt-ass naked.
Ready to go to Pound Town.
Right.
Not Fucktown, Pound Town.
He's kissing her. Jill at this point starts getting into it. She's like, oh. But she thinks it's Scott. She's like, oh, Scott, oh. And when she finally opens her eyes and sees that it's Gary on top of her, she rightfully freaks the fuck out. And is like, Gary, you're crazy. Get off me. Get away from me. And Gary's like, no, I'm trying to protect you. What? I love it. That's the thing. Like raping you. Like, no, I'm just, I'm protecting you.
Yeah,
I need to lay my naked body on your naked body for protection.
I mean, I got a condom.
Yeah, I mean,
You're protected.
It's protected. So what? And that he's gonna find the bastard that did this to her. It's you. You're the bastard. You're the one. Look right there. You're the one doing it. And that he's always loved her. He's like, I'm protecting you. I'm gonna find the bastard who did this to you, and I always loved you, Jill. Finally, Jill's able to like push him off of her, and she covers herself up and says, I understand that you love me, but I belong to someone else now.
And she becomes like sympathetic.
Yes, this is
again.
so, like,
She's like, okay, I almost got raped completely.
Yeah,
you
like
know?
I understand. Like, hey, you leaned in, you kissed me.
I've been sexually assaulted.
Yes.
Almost raped, but I'm still gonna keep you in my back pocket.
Yeah,
I'm
like,
still gonna keep you
at
kind of
this
close.
point. There's something wrong with Jill now too.
Yes.
Because goddamn, like you don't be like. I understand, like, maybe, okay, Gary, I know you love me, and you try to kiss me. That's bad, but hey, I'll forgive that one. He was fucking butt-ass naked on top of you. His schlong was basically sliding through your pubic hair like a snake at that point, and he's humping you, sucking on your titties while you're passed out. And you're like, it's all right, Scott. Hey, I know you love me, but you know what? I belong to somebody else now. We'll just, it's okay. We're cool. Like, just don't do this again, all right? We're cool, man. No, but she's like, next to Scott and my folks, you're the one I care the most about. Again, she's totally keeping him in the back pocket. Like, what is happening? But she's like, please leave. I have to work this out. Again, it's like, you don't say that. It's like,
right.
That's giving him help, but maybe she's going to choose me over Scott. This is like, I'm not saying people who get raped. I'm not saying it's the rapee's fault. It's the raper's. But this shit, leading him on, this is Jill. Jill is leading this fucker on now. This is bad. I'm like, work this out. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, he's trying to rape you. What is there to work out? Like, no, when you call the sheriff, you punch this guy in the face, and then you stab him in the dick with something sharp. Like,
Booyah.
That's what you do to work that out. Jesus Christ. Gary gets up, and he leaves the house. He leaves. He cut back to Mervo, who's taking off his clown makeup while saying to himself something like, I've got to do it. I've got to do it. I've got to do it. Or something like that. I don't know. Then we go right back to Gary, who is on his knees crying in a barn.
Dude, he totally looks like the Dawson's Creek meme of the crying James Vanderbeek. He looks so much like it. It's like perfect. It's like, oh, that's the inspiration.
Oh my God. Oh, I almost spit my beer all over my computer.
Yeah. Oh, if we had our first spit take, that'd be
almost,
great.
Well, not on this.
I know, you got a brand new computer right in front of you.
Yeah. Oh my God, that's hilarious. So we go back to Jill, who has now gotten dressed, like fully dressed now. She's actually properly dressed. She comes downstairs and again gets startled by Mervo, who just pops up out of nowhere.
Of course.
Lock your fucking doors! Jesus Christ! You just had your ex-boyfriend, best friend raped, and you still don't lock the doors! What is wrong with you? Now you are asking for it. Like, is this like a weird sick fetish where she's like, secretly, I want to get assaulted? That kind of turns me on, so I'm going to leave my doors open? What the fuck is happening? So, where was I? Mervo says to her, don't be afraid. I just want you to come with me. I want to show you something. Jill's like, no. And she wants to know where Gary is. Like, why would you ask where Gary is again? Like, you should be glad Gary's nowhere around. Why would you want to know where he is? But she's like, where's Gary? And it's like, tells Merv not to come any closer. Merv reaches out and grabs Jill by the arm, saying, you don't understand. I have to do this. Come with me. You must see. That's creepy shit.
Yeah.
For a clown to be... well, he's not in clown makeup.
Yeah, so this is the first, like one of the first times... Or we see in the very beginning with
very
makeup.
beginning, yeah.
but every other time he's been Merv the Magnificent, you know, the Marvelous or Marvelous, whatever. And now he's just stripped of makeup, and this is where you can starkly see the physical differences between Gary
and Merv. Yeah. So, and then he just like gently, ever so gently, just kind of pulls her off screen with him, and
she's like, okay.
Yeah, she gives zero resistance to this, despite earlier saying, "Don't touch me, get away, I'm not going with you." And she's like, okay, I guess we'll go. Like, all right. Merv takes her outside, and then it gets cut to Jill entering some room, like a whole other house, some wooden paneled room. Like, we don't know where the fuck they are. They leave the house, bam, they're in another room. And in the middle of this room is a table covered in photo albums. She looks through some of the pictures while Merv stands in the doorway behind her. Jill finds a handwritten letter addressed to Gary. She reads the letter out loud, which was written by Gary and Merv's mother. In the letter, the mother, I'm kind of summing this up, I'm not reading it word for word. The mother writes about how after losing the family farm, her husband, their father, decided there was no more reason to live and has decided to take his own life. The mother then, who says, you know what, I can't live without your father, so I'm going to join him, and basically a double suicide. I'm like, what, are you fucking shitting me? Like, that is some selfish fucking parents. We lost our farm and we have no reason to live. How about your 2 goddamn children should be your reason to live? Not like, sorry kids, mommy and daddy are gone. Bam, bam. Like, just fucking A.
It's so bonkers.
That's insane.
Like, I love, but I do kind of love the fact that the father felt, responsible enough to bring it up, Thelma? Since we lost the farm, I just feeling so down. I'm gonna kill myself. Are you okay with that?
Yes.
It brings it up and she's like, well, I'm not a huge fan, but if you're gonna go, I'm gonna go too.
Because I don't want to be without you.
Goddamn, Thelma, I love you. Wouldn't that almost be a more reason to stay?
Yeah, because you don't want your wife to kill.
You have the love of a woman so much who's willing to die for you because you feel like you can't go on anymore.
And either A, you don't love her at all, and
right?
Because you don't care, or B, you should be like, no, I'm not gonna kill myself because I don't want you to die either. If you insist on doing that, I guess I'm not gonna do it because I want you to live.
No, nope.
He's like, fuck it. All right, let's do this shit.
Horrible.
Get the shotguns.
Horrible people.
Let's go Kurt Cobain style. Let's go. I mean, Jesus Christ. So, cut to a shot of Gary peering in through the windows of Jill's house again. Not seeing her there, he leaves. Jill then, we go back to Jill, who finds all the Polaroids that Gary took of her while she was knocked out and naked.
I love she gets this great nugget of information, and Merv seems like an ally, and she's like, oh wow, this is incredible, this is interesting news, and then she's like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
And why would he give her that? Oh yeah, by the way, look at your titties.
Look at your titties here. So yeah. Merv then explains that their parents were not murdered at all, which obviously we learned.
I know, she wait, hold on. What about these titties?
Yeah, what about this? No. Let's talk about parents some more.
It's just an excuse to see the Polaroids of titties.
Yeah. So yeah, Merv's like, my parents weren't murdered, and that Gary was very clever, and he had to protect us. Gary removed the barrel that the father stood on and made it look like murder. That way people would feel sorry for them, and if Merv ever told anyone, he would be placed in a home. So
is it for I wish they'd say something different other than they feel sorry for, people would still feel fucking sorry for you. But if they said something like, we wouldn't collect on their health or life insurance if it was suicide, but if it was a murder, we would.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah,
that makes sense. Now, I know Merv is more of a simple-minded person, so maybe he doesn't quite understand the nuances of life insurance and what have you.
Yeah.
So, but I just wish they'd help us make that leap a little bit than just, oh, they don't want to feel sorry for us. Of course you're going to feel sorry for you if your family decides to go crazy and kill themselves.
Yeah.
I'd still feel sorry for you.
Yeah, I mean, people would probably still feel sorry for him. You're probably right on that. But basically, yeah, they're saying Gary covered up the suicide and make it look like a murder, and kept Merv from saying anything by saying if you stopped him from saying anything by saying if you do, either me or somebody else is going to put you in a home because you're crazy, you're weird. Merv and Jill get interrupted when they hear Gary shouting from somewhere else. Mervin, were you in there? And Merv starts to freak out a little bit in this.
I love this part
And
because Jill is completely silent.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh. And then he covers her mouth.
Yeah. He grabs Jill and covers her mouth, even though he's the one making all the noise to keep her quiet. Like, even though she was completely quiet.
Of course she freaks out. She's like,
and this is what makes her freak out. Because she was, if he would not have touched her, he'd been fine. But by grabbing her and covering her mouth, she's like, and so yeah. And at this point, Gary enters the room. Merv throws Jill under the bus, saying, I swear, Gary, I didn't say anything. Honest engine. There's an old racist term you haven't heard in forever. Honest engine.
Honest engine.
Honest engine. He didn't say anything.
And she came in here snooping around.
Yeah, he blames Jill for snooping around. Those dang kids are snooping around. Gary's like, it's okay, Merv. No one's going to hurt you. Let's just let go of Jill. Jill starts to struggle. Gary attacks Merv, who releases Jill to defend himself. Gary and Merv struggle. During this, Merv reaches out for and is able to get his hands on a pair of scissors to try to defend himself, but Gary grabs Merv's wrist and keeps him from using the scissors. Meanwhile, Jill finds a small revolver on a table and she grabs it and she shouts out, "Stop, Mervin! You have to stop!" Gary, I don't know, just falls to the floor. Like, I don't know if he was supposed to get pushed over or what, but he just falls.
He's on the floor now.
He's just on the floor. Jill shoots Merv in the stomach, and Merv has a really awkward slow motion death. Like, it's so weird looking the way his body moves in slow motion.
It's actually, I kind of love it. Like, he gets shot in the stomach, and you see the bullet. The effect is pretty good.
It's solid, yeah.
It's
solid.
like they had the squib in the front go first before the squib in the back.
Yeah.
And it was in slow motion, so it should have been like pop pop.
Yeah.
You know, like pop pop, front back, but it was done in slow motion, so it almost looked like a fucking bullet is. You know, obviously you can't see it because it's a bullet, but it's cool. It's not bad.
No, it's not. It's
not
actually,
bad.
I agree with you. It is not bad at all.
And it's off center, like on the right side of the stomach. Yeah.
Left side.
Whatever.
It's left side. But yeah, it's off center stomach, side stomach. Jill is freaked out by killing Merv, rightfully so, I guess. Gary stands up saying, "It's all right, it's all right. It's all so perfect. Here we are, you and me, just like it's supposed to be. Just like old times, the two of us alone, needing each other. I love you and you love me." Gary goes over to Jill and places his hands on the side of her face. Jill's like, "What are you talking about?" And Gary starts saying that, "You still don't get it. There is no Scott. There are no parents anymore. Just you and me and no one else. We'll get married. We'll have kids and a dog." And Joe's like, "Okay. All right, but we have to do this real soon. I'm going to go home and pack up and I'll meet you in town.
Yes.
And we can go elope and my parents don't have to know about it." But saying the word parents, like, snaps herself out of her trick, and she snaps. She's like, starts yelling, like, "What have you done to my parents? What have you done?" So she fucks up her own ploy.
Yeah, she was honeydicking him into like for him to drop his guard so she can either escape or attack or something.
Get away
but then she
yeah.
gets distracted by her
herself.
own.
She distracts herself.
Like, bitch, you know your parents are dead.
Yeah. So at this point, Jill then runs out of the room and runs out of this house, which looks very similar to her own house, by the way. I don't think they got a separate house to film this one.
Well, they live pretty close together. Maybe it's the same architect.
She runs off into the woods, back to her house. She grabs the phone, tries to call for help, but finds the phone is dead now.
She doesn't figure that out for like 5 minutes, though. She's fucking fumbling with that phone
does take her a
forever.
while, yeah. She turns around, and as she's on the phone, we see like the shadow of the killer in the stocking, like on the wall behind her. She turns around, sees the stocking killer standing behind her with a large kitchen knife. She runs out of the room. The killer goes after her. And here's another continuity error, because the way this room is set up and the camera angles, the killer... Okay, the camera is like looking into the room. She's on the floor. Fireplace is behind her. Wall, whatever. The killer is coming down the hallway towards her when she turns around and looks at him. But when she runs out of the room, she would have had to run right past him. And then when we see the killer start to go after her, he's behind her for where the fireplace was. Like, there's no way this layout makes any sense.
Yeah, I remember seeing that, like, whatever.
So, yeah, it's just weird shit. I don't know. Anyways, so Jill runs out of the room. The killer goes after her. She flees the house, runs to the barn trips. The barn's dark because it's night again.
God damn
Barn
it.
falls right in front of all the dead bodies that are hanging upside down, but she can't see them because it's too dark, even though they're plain as day. You can clearly see them. The killer enters, lights an old kerosene lantern, illuminating the barn, which now shows Jill that she is face to face with Sarah's dead body. Jill screams as she looks around, sees all the dead bodies. Sarah, Scott, both of her parents also hanging there upside down with their throats slit. The stocking killer removes his stocking to reveal the biggest non-surprise in all horror movie history, that it's Gary. Whoa, didn't see that one fucking coming.
So as she leaves him after they shoot down Merv and she runs off, he has to go put on his stocking and his fucking coat and then be like right on her heels. Again, it's like it's a shitty example of teleportation. It's the fucking teleporting.
It's just like how is he doing this fast? Like he doesn't just run after it. He had to literally go put on his outfit, green jacket, leather gloves, put on the stock, and then go after it just so he could take them off again in the barn.
It's me!
Hey!
No
and now
shit.
I understand why he was so pissed off, like ripped Sarah's clothes off, because he just watched. This was right after he was watching Sarah or Jill and Scott get it on and all the perviness going on. I think, and he's just like, "Fuck that! I'm getting some titties." I gotta take out that sexual frustration, I guess. But so Gary's like. He says, "I'm sorry. I have not enjoyed doing this."
Bullshit.
Gary snaps Sarah out of her hysterical shock of seeing everybody dead and says he has to finish what he started. At this point, he goes into his villain monologue. And I will say the acting here really isn't that bad for Gary. Like, it's been bad through most of the movie, but this part isn't terrible.
Yeah.
There's some things here that I kind of like. The way the reflection in his tone of voice. Like, I get it. It wasn't bad. Gary starts to tie up Jill, but she tries to honey dick him again, trick him again, saying dreams really do come true. We really can run away together. The police will find the bodies and think that Merv did it.
And this is like her best acting.
Yeah.
She's convincing, and she's convincing him that, you know what? When I was honey dicking you before, I'm serious now.
I'm serious this time. And they'll think Merv did it, and then Merv killed us too, because we won't be here. They'll never find our bodies, but they'll think Merv killed us. And this seems to work on Gary. Gary's buying into it. He's bought in 100%. And she goes on to say that all they have to do is place the gun in Merv's hand, and the cops will think that he killed himself after he killed us. And I'm like, you know what? That's all fine and good. Great little Merv suicide plot there. But who the fuck kills themselves by shooting themselves in the stomach?
Off center on the stomach.
Never in the history of suicides, everyone decided, you know what? I'm going to kill myself by shooting myself in the stomach.
I'm going to shoot myself.
Which is everybody knows, an incredibly painful way to die. A stomach wound, shot, stab. Nobody would kill themselves that way. Ever. But, so she keeps piling it on, though, saying that, being with him is what she really wants. And that's all I ever wanted. She starts to run her fingers through his hair, and she tells him, I really do love you. And again, the acting is pretty solid here. It's so much better than I was expecting. Jill's doing a really good job here.
She stunk so many other parts of this movie, but here she's bringing it home.
I didn't think she was that terrible throughout. I didn't think she was terrible. Certainly seen way worse, and she could have been better, but I don't think she was terrible. Jill goes in for a kiss, but then, right before she kisses him, she, turns and tries to dash away.
No! Tries to get away.
God damn it! Did you pick the worst timing? Shame on you, Jill.
Yes.
Shame
you
on
did
you.
so well setting it up, and then you just shit the bed.
You shit the bed, yeah. The $1 million setup for the penny payout, basically, is what it is. Gary easily just tackles her into the hay and drags her by her ankle over to where he has set up his knife. While being dragged, Jill is able to get her hands on some kind of pointy, large metal
I thought
tool.
it was a pitchfork.
It's not a pitchfork.
I know, it looked like a pitchfork from when it was sticking in the hay. When she pulls it out, and then she stabs Gary in the arm.
Yeah, it's like this weird,
but it's
3 foot long metal rod,
spike,
squared rod with a small weird hook spike on the end. It's not like one of those hooks they use for hauling hay bale things. Not those. And I don't know what this thing is, but it's weird, and she stabs him in the arm.
But she stabs Gary in the arm and pins him down, and it looks okay.
It looks okay.
Until you kind of realize.
Until you see the wide shot. The close-up shot's fine. But when we see the Jill surprise that Gary really easily pulls it out of his arm, that's the shot where Okay, you can clearly see that Gary's just like his real arm's underneath the hay, and here's the fake arm. He's trying to line his shoulder up with it and not move too much.
Bad.
Yeah. Anyway, Jill gets up, runs out of the barn. Gary struggles to his feet, which is a little weird because he's struggling way more than he should for an arm injury. Like, you can get to your feet, dude. Like, get up.
Don't be such a bitch.
Yeah. Anyway, he grabs his knife and he goes after her. So this brings us to the cat and mouse chase.
Chase me in the woods.
Through the woods.
Yeah.
In which somehow Gary always manages to get ahead of Jill and leap out from behind the trees and bushes, even though she's running and he's out for like a casually night stroll.
Yeah, and like he'll like cut her off in the pass and like, ha ha.
And then she runs off the other way.
But she'll scream for like a good 5 or 6 seconds, and then he's just going, and then they just go back to chasing. Like, there's no urgency on either of their parts.
No,
at all. It's just kind of like, oh, this is ridiculous. It's you just throw your hands up in the air and be like, fuck it.
Now Jill ends up in some old stone building, which maybe was used like as a granary. Or maybe something where they kept livestock, but it's a really short roof. I don't know what this thing is. She backs herself into like this circular stone
pen
room. And kind of like a pen or something. It's covered in hay.
Yeah.
She trips and falls. Blood starts to trip down her face. She looks up and sees a dead pig carcass dripping blood down on her.
Is that Beulah?
Yeah, I'm guessing it's Beulah.
Oh,
no, because Beulah should have been dead a long time ago.
Well, it did look like a pretty gnarly corpse.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But it's fucking disgusting and
is.
pretty disturbing. I had a hard time watching. I'm like, oh, okay,
yeah.
I'm looking away.
I'm not a fan of seeing, like,
yeah, I agree.
Mutilated animals.
No, I don't either.
But speaking of Beulah,
okay,
do you remember Beulah McGillicuddy?
Yeah,
from ECW.
ECW, of course.
God damn. And remember when Tommy Dreamer used to would pile driver, and like she'd always wear that thong and.
Oh yeah, it was like the strip club. Like it was like that strip thing. Where I'm gonna do cartwheels. I'm gonna put my crotch right in your face.
It was so dirty.
Smell my vagina.
I kind of loved it. But yeah, whenever I hear the name Beulah, I immediately just go to seeing Tommy Dreamer, her butt in the air, him going, and then just pile driving her. So every time I hear that name, which is rare, it's a rare name to hear, I just instantly go back there. So when you said that earlier about Beulah, I was like,
ECW. Anyway, having trapped Jill in this silo pen, because like it's where like to get into this thing, you have to like crawl or climb through like these two metal bars that are like embedded in the stonework. It's a really weird fucking room that I think it was for like a hay storage. I think it was like a silo and those bars kept the hay from pouring out. There's no way, it certainly wasn't for animals because you couldn't get the animals in and out that way. Anyway, he's got her trapped in there, and like it could be an abattoir. I don't know. I doubt it. And he starts monologuing again. Another monologue.
I know. This is like the third time.
At least the second for sure. Finally, he enters the chamber to go after her. They circle around the room a bit. They circle around each other. Jill makes a dash for the opening exit, but again gets tackled by Gary.
I thought for sure she was going to try and honey dick him again.
Third
time's a charm, right?
Third time, yeah. They fight. At one point, she actually gets the upper hand. She's mounted Gary. She's on top of him. She has Gary's knife in her hand up above her. She's about to strike, but she hesitates. She's like, God, give me the strength.
God, give me the strength to kill Gary.
Kill Gary. But Gary's like, fuck that shit. Fuck you, bitch. And knocks her off of him. Then
Slap.
He mounts her and then knocks her unconscious with like a modified like hammer strike to the side of the head.
Back fist thing. Yeah. It was
but it's
so
like
crazy.
he uses the side of his hand, not like the back of his hand or his
like imagine pounding on the table with your hand.
Yeah, like that. Only use that part. But,
whack.
But he's not coming straight down on her. He's also coming at his side. It's a really weird strike. Anyway, we go back to Jill's barn now. Gary walks in leading Jill like a old cow who's tied up behind her. Just walks, leads her into the barn.
He is committed to this barn.
Yeah, you just can't just kill her there. It has to be this barn. He ties her up to some post and says to her that somehow he will have to face life without her. It won't be easy, but he has no choice. He grabs his knife, says goodbye, Jill, and he's about to kill her when bang! Gunshot. Boom.
Slow motion.
Gary gets shot in the shoulder falls over dead. Bullshit. Jill looks over. There's Merv holding a rifle. He drops the rifle, unties Jill. And this one, I'm like, hold on a fucking sec. Like, who the fuck dies from a gunshot wound to the shoulder? Like, that's like the one place, if somebody's going to shoot, like, hey, where do you want to get shot? I'm like, shoot me in the shoulder. Maybe the foot. But that's the one place, like, if you're going to shoot me in the shoulder. That's where I'd want to be shot. Because you're not dying from that shit. But Gary, fucking dead. It's angering me so much.
I would pick the fleshy part of the thigh.
Maybe the ass, but I don't know. I sit on my ass a lot, so maybe I don't know.
You ever watch The Sopranos? That's the name of one of the episodes, the fleshy part of the thigh.
Oh, I've never.
Yeah, because there's a rapper who wants street cred, and one of the gangsters like, "Hey, I'm a great marksman. How about I just, you pay me $10,000, I'll just shoot you randomly." The fleshy part of the thigh. He accidentally winds up shooting him in the ass. So, his street cred is ruined.
Well, at least he didn't go Plaxico Burress on him and shoot himself in the dick. So.
Fucking moron.
Yeah. Merv helps Jill up and out of the barn. When they leave, we see that it's fucking daytime again. What? How is it day again? Again, the continuity here blows my mind. Even though it was just when they were in the stone building, running through the woods, it was night, and now it's day again. What? Just minutes ago, it was pitch black. Anyway, play the peaceful, serene music as the camera pans over to Gary's dead body, where you can clearly see the actor doing a really shitty job trying to hold his breath.
Just breathing like nothing's going on.
I guess it's fine because the camera zooms in on his face. Gary's eyes shoot open, freeze frame, and then we hear in voiceover Gary say, "Jill," and blackout, roll credits, which are accompanied by Tiny Tim singing the marvelous Mervo song. And I'm only thinking, thank God he didn't actually die from that shoulder wound, because I was really pissed at that.
Yeah, I mean, I can see being knocked unconscious, or even playing dead.
So that's Blood Harvest. Let's move on to favorite kills.
Don't act like you didn't love it. Favorite kill.
All right, so kills suck. I mean, they're all the same. Every kill is the same in this one.
Kills really suck in this. It's which throat slash hanging upside down do you want?
Yeah.
I mean, I was gonna pick Tiny Tim because I like the effect, the slow motion, but he didn't die. He just got shot. So unfortunately, I can't go with that.
Yeah, no,
one.
I agree.
So I guess I'm gonna have to go with Scott.
Okay.
Because it was the lead up. I mean, he fucking brought Jill back to her to show him, like, you see this? Yeah, I got your girl, motherfucker. That's some psychological warfare kind of bullshit. And he's like, yeah, now you're dead. Like, that's pretty fucked up. And he's the only one's blood who is actually harvested.
Yep,
so
that's true.
I'm gonna go with Scott.
That's a good point. He's the only one whose blood was actually collected in a bucket. The only harvest there. Part of me thought at first it was the very first throw site at the very beginning, because it was like, okay, it's setting the tone. All right, okay, cool, we're gonna set the tone. But then they were all just like, oh, well, fuck me. I'm gonna go with Sarah just because we got to see
titties.
They were covering the brawl, but it was a nice body.
It's like a sheer brawl.
Sheer brawl. Yeah. So other than that, like they all sucked. They're all the same. So this is just a shit week for that. So all right, that's it. Let's move on to odds and ends.
Just when you thought it was over, here comes the odds and ends.
All right, ratings. IMDb gives it a 4.5 out of 10. Rotten Tomatoes, there is no official thermometer score, but it has a 32% audience score. And Amazon gives it a 3 out of 5. So pretty standard for us across the board with this one. Plot keywords, there are 58. I wrote down a few. Sleazy was the number 1.
Nice.
Clown. Bare breast, breast kissing, and breast squeezing were all plot keywords.
No breast honking?
No. Pubic hair. Nipples. Again, we get psychotronic. Psychotronic. And finally, girl in bra and panties.
Yeah.
Finally, we got the panties back. There we go, panty lovers. God, I knew you were out there somewhere.
I feel like it's been like a year.
It's been forever.
It's been a long time. And if anybody's a newer listener,
yeah, they're like, what the fuck?
We've had a long history of panties being a plot keyword.
Yeah.
A lot of these horrible horror movies.
Years
So-
ago, I guess somewhere early,
It used to be like every week.
panty. It was all
Always.
over
We're
the
like,
place.
Jesus Christ, what's going on with these panty lovers? But
Yeah.
we've gone through a panty drought.
We did. We went through a panty drought.
A panty pandemic. A pantyless pandemic.
Yes.
But there's hope at the end of the
There's
tunnel.
hope. The panties are coming back. So so that's it. The rest were they weren't anything special. Trivia. So the only thing I could really find, let's see. Tiny Tim was making a personal appearance at a beer carnival in Lincoln County, Wisconsin in 1985. And the local filmmaker, Bill Rebane, who directed this, was in the audience. He had an idea for a horror film and decided to see if Tiny Tim was interested in appearing in it. He was, and this is the result of that meeting. So there.
Is there anything beer can't do?
Tiny Tim wore his own clown suit, so his Marvelous Marvel, that was his own suit. Does not surprise me one bit that he
Nope.
would own that. Also does not surprise me the script was written in 3 weeks.
No.
It does not surprise me either.
You think?
If anything, that seems long. And supposedly, I kind of buy this. Suppose this movie was shot in 1 day and 1 night, which with the continuity years, like I kind of might buy into that.
But
that's
day and
almost
one night?
too much. Yeah. I kind of believe, but at the same time, there's no way any kind of big. I'm not calling this big budget, but an actual movie was filmed in 1 day. There's just too much setup, scenes changes, not a costume,
The
everything, lighting, like coming in, coming out, and saying.
There's a lot of different shots. I mean, they were in town. They had the
Well, they did the town stuff probably like in one setting because it's just the her walking through the town, the sheriff's, and then the one shot at the restaurant. Then everything else is basically at Jill's house or the barn.
Yeah,
and then some woods. So I can kind of buy it, but at the same time, no movie of this size is ever made that quickly.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Take it for what you will. Budget, I could not find the budget for this movie. I just couldn't, unfortunately. With that said, it's time to move on to see what other people are to say in Mortal Kombat Combat.
At the end of this day, one shall stand, one shall fall.
Good versus bad. Right versus wrong. Light versus dark. In the end, when the dust settles, who will be left standing after Mortal Kombat Combat?
All right, so there are only 13 reviews on Amazon for this movie. 31% are 5-star, 26% 1-star. So pretty close this week. However, unfortunately, all of those 31%, there's really nothing actually written out, except for 2. So I got 1 5-star review from Ringo. Everyone note that this is edited, but so is every other copy. Great quality transfer and packaging is cool. Special features are worth getting this edition. The special features is a documentary of the film, plus a Tiny Tim video of his recording of Tiptoe Through the Tulips, plus behind-the-scenes interview with Tiny Tim and an interview with Tiny Tim about music and his career is worth it. 5 stars. So really more about the actual DVD, not the movie.
Well, sounds like it got a good repackaging.
Yeah, I
It's
guess.
a lot of extras, especially if you're a Tiny Tim fan.
Yeah. The Duke of Ricochet, I don't know. Anyway, the Duke writes, Tiny Tim is amazing as Marvelous Merv. Part man, part boy, but all clown. In this mid-80s rural psycho killer film, what would have been an average boobs and blood flick is ripped apart every time Tiny Tim appears on the screen, mugging up like you would not believe. He sings his own theme song too. As a horror fan, this is one for the fans of 80s cheap and cheerful filmed on video horror. For Tiny Tim fans, this is a delight from start to finish. Extras include the incredible Tiny Tim sideshow, which features an interview with Tiny Tim and lots of behind-the-scenes footage of making this film. So again, more about the DVD, but a little bit about
the movie itself.
This guy loves Tiny Tim. 5 stars. And lastly, this is not 5. It's a 10 out of 10. This is a from IMDb. From A. Greger 1. I gave this movie a 10 out of 10, not because of its quality, 1 out of 10. But because of the sheer enjoyment that can be derived from watching it, absolutely hilarious. If you like this, check out Full Moon Productions or any other horror movie in your local rental place with a cheesy cover. 10 out of 10. There's not much to go with this week, guys. 1-star reviews on the other side of this fight. We have Alexander Corrigan. Films Around the World Inc., FATW, acted as the exclusive international sales agent for Buddies Inc., which furnished compilation money for the original production company of Blood Harvest. The Shooting Ranch Ltd., the production company, went bankrupt, and in Films Around the World Inc., affiliate purchased the negative outtakes, the right to use the screenplay and all related rights from the trustee in bankruptcy. FATW licensed the original version to the drive-in channel. The movie has never been licensed for video by the copyright owner. It will be straightened out by the courts, but for sure, when it's legitimately released, the technical quality will be first rate and there will be no unauthorized cuts. All present video versions are unauthorized, of inferior technical quality, and not as complete as the original 1-star. What the shit? Why even write all that, dude? What? You're talking about the businesses going bankrupt and fucking weird. But again, there's like all that's there. This is all I got. And 1-star. That was it from Amazon. That's the only 1-star review written on Amazon. This is a 1-star from IMDb from JJ Dorsha. Right, Blood Harvest is not a good film, to say the very least. But I enjoyed watching something that was definitely not a gem. I enjoyed watching something that was definitely not a gem of its time. The bad side ponytailed hair, styled women, extremely bad clothing designs featuring some of the worst fashion mistakes in history, and the lazy script makes this film so bad it must be seen to be believed. And that's not it. This bad blast from the past even has its own Weird Al character who has a serious identity crisis. Blood Harvest doesn't offer much for gore fans, so I encourage you to watch this film as satire. The storyline was the only piece of film that could have been salvaged. Even the camera work sucked. 1-star.
Someone didn't know anything about Tiny Tim compared him to Weird Al.
Yeah, but at the same time, like, if you don't know Tiny Tim, like, and you're just trying to, I don't know, is it really that big of a strike? Like, if you're going to compare Tiny Tim to anybody in modern day, Weird Al might be the only comparable person, at least visually looking, and in the oddness. Yeah. Now, granted, Tiny Tim wasn't that humorous as this, but this as a weird performer cult personality, kind of like modern day equivalent.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's just weird because Weird Al at that time in 1986 was like in his heyday.
Or like Weird Al and Pee Wee Herman maybe mixed together a little bit.
Yeah, the man-child.
The man-child thing and the weird voice, but in that with the Weird Al look.
Like a blend of Weird Al and Pee Wee Herman.
Yeah.
To an extent.
Again, and there's really no other way to describe Tiny Tim.
He was an original.
He was an original.
Before with both of them. Yeah.
Yes. So that's it. There was not much reviews or for this week, which kind of sucked, but that's all I could come up with. All right, so that brings us to our final thoughts. And so, Aaron, what do you got this week for Blood Harvest?
I was actually really looking forward to this movie. I thought, I don't know much about Tiny Tim, but I heard about him when I was even in high school and stuff. I remember even
you hear the name, like, oh yeah, Tiny Tim.
Yeah, like I remember, like being familiar with him. Even then, I was like, oh, what a weird fucking act, but whatever. But when I didn't know he was in a horror movie, I'm like, okay, cool, this could be kind of cool. I actually kind of like some things about this movie, like. Tiny Tim was not the killer. They did throw out some decent red herrings, like the townspeople were all pissed off, and Tiny Tim's a fucking creepy, weird looking dude. We don't know exactly who's fucking with her, who the bad guy. Like they did a pretty good job of keeping you in suspense on that front. Scott's, she's only known Scott for a little bit. Blah blah blah. Yeah, she's engaged, but fucking who knows Scott. So they did a pretty decent job on that part. Tiny Tim turns out to be the hero. But it was just boring. I mean, there was a part of the movie where nothing was said for almost 10 minutes. There was no dialogue. It was so hard at times to watch. Great titties though. I'm really on the fence, but I'm going to say so bad it's scary. I'm going to say skip this one. Unless you're a huge Tiny Tim fan or have interest in finding out about him, watch it. Other than that, it's not for me.
Yeah, I was in a weird place with this one too. Like the reason I put this on my list, like probably 2 years ago or more, when I first, he's like, holy shit, Tiny Tim in a horror movie. I gotta watch that because like he's a creepy weird guy as is. Like this could be great, but then like I was like, how do you have him and not make him the killer? Like, is this some weird thing where Tiny Tim's like his image, like, oh, it's like putting Pee Wee Herman in a movie and not having Pee Wee Herman because he's a kind of a child icon, so you don't want like this beloved character being like tainted by being a killer.
Well, he already did that himself by jerking off in a theater.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah, but I mean, maybe that's a bad example. But I mean, something like that.
I get it. Yeah.
So it's just weird. Like I found that weird that Tiny Tim wasn't the killer. And then the way they went about doing, like, yeah, it set him up as the red herring in the very beginning, but it's pretty goddamn obvious real quick in this movie who it is, and they kind of get rid of that whole Tiny Tim red herring really quickly. Like they give up on that. They don't carry it further into the film longer.
Like that part where he's feeding that woman in this hobbit hole.
Yeah, like
that's like, okay, he's the fucking killer.
Killer, yeah. Oh, he's obviously then in on it. He obviously knows what's going on then at least. But when you have the killer running around a fucking nylon stocking and you can clearly see it's not Tiny Tim.
Just even if you didn't think it was Gary, I mean the difference between their physical size, because Tiny Tim's a pretty short guy.
Short and stocky.
And very stocky, yeah.
And Gary's tall and svelte, like pretty lean.
Yeah. Even the killer, it's like if you weren't sure it was Gary, because he wore that big bulky.
Right, but again, don't put a full mask on or something, because you can clearly see, okay, the killer's got short blonde hair, not long wavy brown hair like Tiny Tim has. I mean, it's so easy. They drop that so quickly, and so I was like, I don't know. The acting's not terrible. I was really surprised that this girl Jim, Itonia, whatever her name is, was only one down. I could have easily seen her do a more 80s horror movie and would have been fine. She fit the role fine. She wasn't terrible. She had a banging by, had no problem showing off those tits, man, because they're in the movie a lot. So that's a big 2 thumbs up for that. But yeah, like the movie is kind of slow. The kills suck. They're pretty much almost an afterthought. Like you name a movie Blood Harvest, they're basically fucking blood, man. Harvest, do something. But other than there's really no harvest at all in this.
At least harvest some crops, do something.
Yeah, there's really nothing. The farms, they aren't even working farms. They're all sold and foreclosed.
Cut some wheat.
There's nothing. So I think at the end of the day, yeah, unless you really want to see the oddity that is Tiny Tim, which you could probably just go look on YouTube now and actually see him as his weird character. But Tiny Tim does do a good job in this. He is creepy. His weird spots.
I agree.
He does a good job. I'll give him credit. Way better than I thought he was going to be.
Totally agree. I thought he...
but he is just a natural performer. That's it. So I'll give him credit. But I think at the end of the day, other than just the oddity, like, what's the word? Novelty, I guess, of this movie, I'm probably going to say So Bad Scary 2 on that. But I'm not going to blame anybody if they want to watch it for the oddity or just to see the weird novelty of this one time, move on. But overall, I'm still saying So Bad Scary.
Yeah.
And can be skipped at the end of the day. All right, so that's going to do it for us. Thanks for listening, guys. Remember, if I know it's been a while, but if you are listening, if you're new to the show, or if you're returning viewer after a little bit of a hiatus there in January and stuff, check out our Patreon page. We're going to get back to doing more with that. So if you want to help support us, check it out and sign up there. Keep an eye out for our horrible horror March movie Tournament of Awfulness, March Movie Madness Tournament of Awfulness. I always fuck with the title. I never get that right. That's an ongoing thing. And we're also going to have some other bonus episodes coming down for Patreon. We're going to be doing some video game stuff. We got some Resident Evil episodes lined up. I got a few other horror video games I want to talk about that are coming up too.
We touched on Left 4 Dead. That's a great one too.
We touched on that. So we have that coming down. We'll probably try to do some more Back from the Dead as well. And maybe also a new little quick rapid fire show. Maybe I kind of want to call Boot or Reboot. We haven't done that in a long time, so we might be doing some of that as well. So in the meantime, guys, thank you very much for listening. We'll be back later with another movie. And in the meantime, you know what to do. That's right. You watch more horror movies. And remember to always keep it tight.